All righty. Well, welcome. If you are joining us, then you are joining the Five9 and InflowCX webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about kickstarting your digital transformation in 2024 and also how to elevate your contact center with AI. I'm Austin Kolb. I'm Senior Director of Sales here at InflowCX, and I am joined by Ken Workin, who is our VP of AI Application and Software Services at Inflow, and also by Michael Roche, who is at Five9, and he's an RVP of Solution Consulting. So two great industry experts today, and really excited for this conversation. Before I jump in, if you're not familiar with Inflow or with Five9, InflowCX is an organization that helps companies evaluate, deploy, and optimize contact center technology, people, and processes. So we've got a lot of great partners in the space, Five9 being one of our favorites. But we, work with a ton of different technologies and contact centers to help them ultimately get the most out of their contact center and customer experience engagements. Five9 is a great organization, Gartner Magic Quadrant leader, who has built just world-class contact center and customer experience software. And again, really great partner of InflowCX. So we're glad to have them here. Ken and Michael, thank you guys both. Really appreciate that you guys are joining me today.
Thanks, Austin. Pleasure to be here, and good morning, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. So yeah, I think, to first get us started, the AI landscape in contact centers is, ever evolving, ever changing. I feel like, I'm in this space and live and breathe it every single day. And I'm shocked always by, how things are changing and what new sort of, parameters are out there now, or the new things customers are asking about, or the new things that exist that customers don't even know about. Would love for you all to, maybe Ken, start with you. Can you walk us through sort of the current state of the AI landscape within contact centers?
Sure. Current, again, is probably about 10 days old, because I haven't been able to keep track of the last week or so, and it is literally changing on a week. But with the release of ChatGPT, 18 months ago, and the readily available large language models that are out there now, the contact center has really exploded in terms of the adoption of AI. Where originally it was focused on IVRs, but you could speak instead of hitting the number. You could push 1 for sales or say sales. Where now it's almost a complete robotic capability that allows you to ask whatever you want to do and have an artificial intelligent agent really manage large single-digit or double-digit number of your calls directly without ever having to talk to a human. And the quality is really exploding. And I would say over the last 6 months or so, what we've seen is not just on the customer side of the person making the phone call, but AI being used to assist the call center agents themselves with intelligent lookup, guiding them in terms of scripting, as well as listening real time to the conversations, and either recording and transcribing at the most basic level, or with an integration into the knowledge base system, actually able to assist the call center agent with answering any of the pertinent questions that are being asked on the call. So really exploded. We'll get into a lot more of the specific use cases, but there's really a broad breadth of AI applications now within the call center.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you just named a bunch. I know we're going to dig into that a little bit more, but if I had to sum up what you just said in one word, I would say complex, right? There's just stuff everywhere. Michael, what about from your take? What would you add or change or piggyback on that Ken said as it relates to the current state of artificial intelligence in the contact center today?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I'd agree with everything Ken said for the most part. I think I would add to it that I've never been or seen a place in terms of the landscape so confusing. It's confusing to me, and I'm a technologist that specializes in AI technologies, and I'm confused. So I feel for customers who are trying to navigate these waters in what is a terribly noisy environment. I'm actually headed to Contact Center Week next week in Vegas, and in the pavilion where all the vendors will be, you better believe that there'll be banners where every single vendor out there will be talking about their use of AI and how they are in front and center in the market, and kind of everybody's an AI whisperer. And that's interesting because it makes it very difficult for customers to weed through that. The good news is I've never seen adoption this high as well. I mean, customers are really willing and able and wanting to invest in AI in all of its iterations. I think Gen AI has sparked a desire to invest in AI, but it doesn't have to be with just Gen AI technologies. There are a host of other tools in the tool bag that are AI oriented, and adoption's going up kind of across the board. Part and parcel, I think the other thing that's unique about the landscape today is that expectations are high. You could, I think, Ken, you spoke about kind of DTMF or pressing buttons and so forth, and that's still a technology that's used today, but customers are starting to expect a lot more than that. That's because we are all touching and feeling AI in ways that we had never have in the past, especially with Gen AI. So it's really interesting that the customer expectations are starting to really climb, which puts pressure on all of us, but in a good way.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, you talked about going to CCW and how difficult it is for an end customer to navigate all of that. I always make the joke that every year CCW happens, or pick any industry conference, right? But in addition to each company saying, hey, here's how we've innovated with AI in the last year, you've also got new companies that are whatever.ai or whatever some new version and new spin on an AI. So I empathize with what you say, Michael. Is like, we live in this space and this is all we do. And I agree, it's confusing as heck sometimes to try and figure out what someone even does or how they fit and where they fit in this landscape. So that's great. Thinking about that, Michael, I'm an end customer and I want to either do more with AI, or maybe I really don't do anything and I'm trying to figure out where to start. I mean, how do you identify opportunities to, really figure out where AI could make, if I'm an end customer, just trying to navigate this, complex web of everything that's gone on the last several years?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's probably it's a really important question, one that is asked across the market and the space by digital leaders today. Where do I start here? I think there's two things to probably think about right out of the gate. The first is really don't try to boil the ocean. It's really easy to get lost in, here are the million things that I could do with AI, but really start to focus on the practical things that you could do quickly, that bring value to your organizations quickly, that are relatively easy to implement. I mean, one of the things with AI in the past is that, pardon me, implementing AI oftentimes was kind of a long haul. It took a long time because models needed to be built and so forth. One of the unique things about Gen AI is that many of the technologies that can be deployed can be done so very quickly with very little PS involvement. And that is a game changer. That means that I can start small. Maybe I start with a routing application for voice or a digital agent, or I start with an agent assist product and do summaries, which is incredibly valuable and takes after call work off the table for agents. There's just a million places to start that are relatively easy. And I think the other thing to do kind of to start is decide kind of where you want to go. Are you looking to partner with somebody to work with you from a CCaaS perspective? Like, this is a company I want to partner with for the long haul, and I believe that they're the right partner. Or are you really shopping for single point solutions and so forth? You're trying to solve a very narrow problem. Those are good places to start, I think, in terms of self-evaluation. And then from a practical perspective, let's start with something easy to implement and kind of low-hanging fruit. Easier said than done, by the way, but that's a good approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, I mean, what are your thoughts? I know you helped a lot of companies try and figure this out. I mean, what are your thoughts?
The irony is, one of the first tools that we adopted into our portfolio of sort of delivery of AI is an actual AI tool to help decide where best to use AI. So there are, in fact, some very good systems out there that will look at your last 6 months of calls or last 3 months of calls and analyze them for sentiment analysis, frequency of communication type. So you can essentially plug your call history into AI and say, where can I get the most benefit from AI? And it will give you the top 4 or 5 areas where your call center is being inundated with calls that could be dealt with an intelligent agent. So, I mean, to Michael's point, that I think the low-hanging fruit in all of this is transcript and summarization. So listening to every call, telling you how it went, providing a summary and integrating that with the CRM can provide tremendous value, particularly when multiple languages are involved. You know, if you have a call center manager who is, you know, unable to speak all of the languages of the call center, and being able to have AI listen to and convert all of the conversations into a standardized language is very low-hanging fruit and provides tremendous value right off the start, where you don't have to try to guess the voice of the customer. You can in fact record and transcribe and summarize all of that. But yeah, I mean, the good news is there's a lot of tools out there that will help really focus your attention into the places that have the highest ROI.
That's great.
And
Yeah.
if I could add on to that real quick, Austin, what's interesting, Ken, about that is that, you know, call it even 5 years ago, 4 years ago, that process was laborious. To dig into that data and mine that data was a real challenge. And, you know, we've all seen many vendors out there that took different approaches to that problem and with mixed results and so forth. But leveraging large language models to do that interrogation of transcripts and that level of data is a game changer. It makes that much easier. And it really does. I completely agree with you. It starts to shine spotlights on areas of opportunity for either automation or optimization, both.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the approach, my philosophy throughout my career has always been, you know, think big, start small, move fast. So the good news with the think big is AI can play a role from, you know, proactive outreach to handling the first interaction with the customer to managing the agent. So it really can a role anywhere within your call center. But the secret is really finding the low-hanging fruit that you can dig in, prove the ROI, prove the business case, make a small incremental change that, you know, really impacts your business, and then use that as a launch point to sort of land and expand. You know, start experimenting, try that first use case, and then grow from there. But have a vision of where you want to go. And to Michael's point, you know, I think choosing vendors is so important right now, just because there are so many, and you have to understand which ones are going to be around and which ones are not. You know, I really view this as anomalous to the birth of the internet, whatever it was 30 years ago now, where there was just so many vendors all trying to figure out how they play in the space. And you really have to make sure you pick the right one, because you don't want to make an investment that ends up stranded.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a question from the audience, you know, Ken and Michael, and I think might make sense. I think I can answer, but would love your all's thoughts too, right? There's someone in the audience asking, hey, talking about tools, and that's great. Is there a few specific tools that we might recommend for, you know, a call, for example, that helps us review call history and provide analysis? What I would say is, you know, there are a lot of specific companies out there that can do that. Inflow and or Five9 can help guide you and make sure you're thinking of some of the right ones separately. If you're thinking about tools from the standpoint, or naming tools, if you will, outside of just, you know, the use case of, hey, you can analyze your calls and, you know, run your interactions through a tool. Are there any other ones that you all have found helpful when you think about trying to figure out either where to start or what to do? And again, not maybe specifically company names, but more so from the standpoint of, hey, here's some other cool use cases you can think about using AI in.
Yeah, this is, for me, it's a little difficult just because we have a homegrown tool that we use to do this very thing as we work with prospects and our existing customer base. So it's called Insights. There are tools like this. I mean, I would be folly to suggest that we're the only ones that do this, but the premise or the idea of the tool is, and Ken, I think, alluded to it, but I'll be a little bit more specific. it is taking, all of your call transcripts. So finding a tool that is able to transcribe all of your voice and or chat communications with customers, and then takes those transcripts and mines them, right? Using large language models to mine those for things like Ken mentioned, sentiment, right? It's sentiment, it's topic surfacing. What are people calling about? And then that tool has to have the ability to combine typical or what you would consider normal contact center data, things like average handle time. Because once you do that, these are the top 5 topics, but only the top 2 are really impacting my business because the average handle time is over 5 minutes. Those are the blending of kind of data points that you want to do that shines that light that I was talking about. So again, ours is called Insights, but there are many things like that. But from a component perspective, that's what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, there are a lot of analytical tools. There's open source ones. Google has some great tools available. Pinecone allows you to embed and create your own LLM knowledge base to do your lookups on. There are other tools that do transcription. But there is, depending on your budget and the size, it's hard to recommend a single one, just because some are for 1,000+ call center agents where you're doing tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of session analysis, and some are, if you've got a 10 agent shop or a 20 agent shop, your analysis will be quite different, and your budget and the tools will be different. But if you can manage the first person, I'd be happy to understand what they're trying to do and give some very specific recommendations based on their needs.
Yeah, exactly. That's the final bow on this that I was going to put before I move to the next question, is that's exactly why companies like Inflow exist, is that you come to us, we'll look at your where you're at and kind of what you need, and then to Michael's point, very complex space, tons and tons of tools out there, help align you based on what we know about the space, with companies and tools that will make the most sense for you specifically versus a blanket approach.
Yeah, that's really important, Austin, because a company like Inflow has to take all the variables. Like Ken, you didn't mention, and I know it's just because you were short on time, we're kind of moving through, but if your problem set is more associated with voice, maybe that's one tool. If it's a company like Inflow has the ability to kind of put all those variables in a cabunculator and work and provide the right tool to solve your problem. So yeah.
Cabunculator, I like that. That's a good one. Cool. I do want to move on, guys, to talk a little bit about use cases and what I'll call about like trusting AI, right? So for example, I think there's a lot of stigma out there about, hey, is AI really safe? What are some boundaries I can put up? I'll frame this up with a personal story that I had from a customer standpoint, as a customer. And then we'll ask the question, I think. So, my wife and I are expecting our first child here in a few months. And we found that out. We did some genetic testing, and unbeknownst to me, we had an AI bot tell us the gender of our baby. It's a girl, by the way, which I'm excited about. I would never have guessed that this was going to be a use case. I would never even thought about it, but we went and got blood work done, all that sort of stuff. And then about a week later, we logged into this portal. So we had to, authenticate. The bot said, hey, I am a bot. I can go over these test results with you, but if you'd rather talk to a live person, just, call your doctor. We said, hey, no, we're going to opt in. We're going to go over these results with you. It summarizes the results. So certainly genetic testing. There's some other things too, testing for, chromosomal diseases and things of that nature. They went through the results with us, summarized them, sent us a link to the report if we want to go, look at it in our portal. And then when it got to the gender portion, it said, hey, I can also tell you if you're having a male or female. Do you want to know? And we said yes. And voila, it said you're having a female. And that's been confirmed later by, anatomy scans and things like that. So the bot was accurate and right. But I think it, paints a really good picture about somewhere where you would think, well, hey, no, a doctor has to go through that with you. There's all sorts of privacy and, regulations, maybe there's comfortability there, like someone wouldn't want to know that. But yeah, I would be curious on your guys' thoughts. Do you have any interesting use cases, stories like that? But how do you think about when to trust AI and sort of, not necessarily from a privacy standpoint, but more of like a, when should I use it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's interesting. I was at a meeting yesterday with a prospect in Arizona, and this very topic came up as they were exploring how best to use AI from their perspective. And this is a company that I would classically call a bit risk averse,
Mhm.
and their industry is a bit risk averse. So you have to take all those things into consideration. The answer is somewhat um, subjective, and it's on a company by company basis. But if we talk in generalities for a moment, um, there's all kinds of AI tools out there to use. So you have everything from standard AI modeling, like natural language modeling, to Gen AI. I think the one that is capturing the most attention right now is Gen AI and large language models. And do I really ship data over to this large language model, and how is it used, and can it get out, and all those kinds of things. And will mistakes happen, like hallucination, right? Those kinds of discussions. I think it boils down to this. Very similar to agents. Agents make mistakes all the time, right? They quote the wrong thing, they follow the wrong procedure. Sometimes those mistakes have financial impact, etc. So bots are no different. They're going to make mistakes. Ideally, they'll make less mistakes, but they will make mistakes.
Sure.
So the question becomes, what procedures and how do I think about use cases where I'm not so worried about that, right? Versus use cases where I'm very worried about that. And if I am, I have to put guardrails on or checks and balances against the use case to make sure that if an error is made by the bot, it gets caught before it gets to the customer. Just like you do in a contact center, right? Like in banking, if you want to move $500 from one account to the next, there's one set of thresholds and procedures. If you want to move a large sum of money, there's a whole different set of procedures for that kind of transaction. So I think from that perspective, you do an analysis of the kinds of use cases that you're looking to deploy, and then decide, I trust the bot to do this, I don't really have any concerns, versus those that maybe you don't, or you want to wait a while until you're more comfortable with the technology. Let's ground this in kind of maybe an example. Summaries is a good example. So agent summaries, leveraging any kind of an agent assist product where at the end of the call, we use large language models to summarize the call. So again, interrogate the transcript and summarize the call in an automated fashion, thus eliminating the need to document or disposition the call. That's a pretty easy use, right? You don't really have to worry too much about mistakes. Typically, you're not capturing PI and those kinds of things. And if you are, those can be extracted out of those summaries. So that's a pretty good use case where the threshold for trust is, wide open. Like we can do this. Now, in your case is actually a great one. I'm not sure I'm trusting it in that case yet, right? And again, each business will make its own decisions there, but I'm seeing in healthcare and FinServe, there's a more conservative approach in terms of use case selection.
Sure.
Yeah, and we talk a lot in the call center space in particular about generative AI and large language models and natural language processing, which is essentially understanding what you're trying to do. For those who are not in the vernacular or very new to it, large language models are essentially used to try to understand how to generate text, and natural language processing is trying to understand what you're saying. But from an AI perspective, it's much like a human. Trust is not something that is built immediately. You'd give people the benefit of the doubt, but real trust comes over time. I think you need to treat AI in the same way, where assume that it's going to be correct, but verify. And that hallucination doesn't happen often, but it does. Just like humans make mistakes, AI does make mistakes. Where it gets more interesting is when you get into biometrics, where you're actually trying to use AI as a way to authenticate who you're speaking to. And again, in both the healthcare and financial sectors, that's becoming really strong. So making sure, even with all the spams now and the phishing, there you get an email from your CFO saying, will you please make this payment? Or the CEO sends to the CFO, please make this payment. There's many examples of fraudulent actors trying to pretend that there's someone they're not. AI is actually very good at detecting who you are and what you're doing, but you still need to make sure that you have processes in place to not leave it unmonitored.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I do have one final question that I want to make sure we get to. It's a really exciting one, I think. It's relating to future, planning, sort of, from both your vantage points and a minute or so each. What do you think's on the horizon? I know there's a lot of trends. What's trending right now, and any predictions that you might make over the next 1, 3, 5 years, etc.
Yeah, I think, can you want me to take it first?
Sure.
Craig?
Yeah, please.
So there's many that are out there. So I'm going to go based on something I heard again this week, meeting with a customer. But I think what we're seeing is a desire by companies to not use large language models in their current iteration, but to find more nuanced or vertically specific large language models. So they're smaller. I guess they're like small large language models, but they're more nuanced. They're industry specific. So the risk associated with things like hallucination and so forth diminishes dramatically. So we are oftentimes getting asked by customers, hey, we have our own large language models, or we're building our own language models. Can we bring those, into your platform? Which dovetails into kind of point number 2, which is it's really important that customers identify, if they're going to go down paths like that, vendors who have open platforms who will be able to swap out technologies, because this we know. New technologies will emerge, and you have to be able to take advantage of them. So while I know that smaller large language models are coming out and we're being asked to bring those to bear, there are things that I don't know that are in the corner that we'll need to be thinking about as well.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, so I agree with all of that, and the where is it going is the exciting point is I constantly think it's going to be 5 years from now, but then someone comes out a week later and does it. But I think language understanding is well on its path, and that's only going to improve. So I think that's going to get better. Where I see sort of the next phase going, and where I'm super excited, are things like doing predictive analysis. So using AI in the back end to try to figure out what's going to happen. So the first set is trying to be better at answering issues. The second phase is understanding when issues are going to occur and be proactive about them. So for example, if you get one phone call from a customer and it's a real issue, it could be that, hey, you know what, we have a lifespan. Maybe it's a retail where I've wouldn't you know it, spring weather. But trying to understand what other customers may have the similar issue based on their usage of your products, and being able to do outreach to tell people that, we were working with a company that was using that for elevators, for example, and telling somebody that they've got a problem with their elevator before they've even noticed that they do. So those are the sorts of things that I think become really interesting as we expand into the far future. In the short term, there's things like voices. So right now, I think we're all getting a little bit overwrought with the Siri voice, or the Alexa voice, or the Google voice, or whoever that is as your digital assistant. I think very soon there's going to be artificial voices that become the brand of the customer. So if you think of the Nike swoosh, I think very soon we're going to have AI becoming a personality, where you create personalities around a brand. I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know there's a lot on the horizon, and this has been really great, you two. Thank you again so much for your expertise and knowledge and sharing it. For the audience, I know we've got one last, minute left here. Anyone on the call, InflowCX actually has an AI impact assessment in which we do a lot of what we talked about today. So if you asked about this, wink, wink, right? We can help you out. So we actually work with an organization and we, do this all the time where we analyze your current interactions. Can be voice, can be digital, can be whatever, gain insights on your interaction reasons, and then deliver recommendations for prioritizing your AI and automation initiatives. So please do reach out to us if you are interested in this, and we'd be glad to talk about how we can help you. Ken,
I will give one more plug though, and that is the good news with AI is the ROI is about as easy as new technology I've seen. Like the return on investment is a pretty easy business case to prove in. And the other thing that we do a lot of work on and can help you with is helping sell internally within your organization. How do you get the funding to do this?
Yeah.
And I will say from a new technology perspective, the business case is very simple to understand and very simple to articulate. And I'm happy to help you with that as well.
Agreed. Most CFOs, when we do our ROI analysis, say, why are we doing this already? And so would love to make that case for you. Michael, Ken, thank you both so much. Really appreciate the time and again, knowledge and expertise. And yeah, thank you all for attending. Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. I really
Take care.
appreciate your time.
Take care.
Bye-bye.